Are there actually too many Kirby games? This discussion stems back to the release of Star Allies, which came out only 2 years after Planet Robobot for the 3DS. After that, we got Kirby Fighters 2 and Super Clash in the following years, creating the illusion of constant Kirby releases, despite the fact we had to wait 4 years for the Forgotten Land, a mainline title. It doesn't help that the 30th anniversary is celebrated not with 1 or 2, but 3 games back to back, with Return to Dreamland Deluxe ending the consistent streak of ongoing Kirby titles so far. Because of that, there's a certain echo chamber that rings throughout the year, claiming Kirby is blessed with too many games, while other franchises have to wait decades for receiving at least one new entry. Pikmin 4 is a perfect example of a series suffering from inconsistent releases, and players can quickly degrade into becoming jealous of seemingly unrightful preference towards other franchises. From the eye of a fan, we are obviously not complaining about this spectacular treatment, but viewing it from a more objective point of view, are there actually too many Kirby games? And is the series maybe even suffering from this overblow of consistent publications? First, it's important to notice why Kirby is even escalating so much in the first place. Right now, the franchise is celebrating its 30th anniversary, naturally being more present than usual. The result is one mainline title, a smaller eShop only release, and a complete remake. Even for an anniversary, this output of quality games is by no means the standard, especially when comparing to Mario or Zelda. While Nintendo's mascot himself is without a doubt their most important franchise to show off, the only gifts he got for his anniversary is a port, admittedly a fantastic one, and a questionable game collection, lacking any kind of care or passion. Zelda, on the other hand, received nothing noteworthy, not even desired ports of Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD. But this is not to say a company should force releases for the sake of bringing out something. We all know how well this can end, but at least gives perspective to why Kirby is taking the spotlight. Additionally, you have to be aware that the last years weren't as glorious as it would appear. Of course, getting spin-offs like Fighters 2 or Super Clash is by no means a bad deal, but they are only snacks and are not even comparable to many ambitious spin-offs within the series. As a matter of fact, some fans only played them for 2 or 3 days and stopped, because there's not much to them. Dream Buffet is a very similar case, and nowadays it's very hard to find people online, from my perspective at least. On top of that, Star Allies wasn't the big HD title everyone was anticipating, and left some players disappointed. The last time a Kirby game was universally praised to be amazing was Planet Robobot for the 3DS, released in 2016. So if we try to be a little cynical, there was a time span of 6 years since the last great Kirby game. Publishing titles carefully throughout the years or vomiting them out in one is a practice everyone should judge for themselves. Another problem that might occur is the quality of games. As mentioned before, there are many examples of companies desperately sticking to an anniversary in order to maximize their profit and corresponding marketing. Financially, this makes sense, but if a game isn't finished, an anniversary will not magically iron out all the flaws. Even worse, it will be remembered as a pathetic attempt and soar the celebration in hindsight. We already established that the Forgotten Land cannot be put into this category, just like Dream Buffet or Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Whatever you think of these games, it's undeniable how well crafted all of them are, with no major bugs, glitches, or a general feeling they were rushed. In fact, it's outstanding how well consistent the games tend to be. Think of Dream Buffet what you like, but it delivers everything it's aiming to achieve. Furthermore, Return to Dreamland Deluxe did even go one step further and included multiple features we did not see coming. If this would have been created by Nintendo, the best we would have gotten were the upgraded visuals and maybe one new copy ability. Considering this bare minimum approach in an anniversary with one mainline title and spin-off, it would be understandable to some degree, but this is simply not the case here. The remake includes as much additional features as possible and feels like a true expansion in comparison to the original. A whole new visual style in contrast to simply copying Star Allies, old as well as new new minigames, cosmetics and a complete fresh new adventure are the signs of pure passion instead of milking an anniversary. Speaking of Nintendo, you have to be always aware that Kirby isn't necessarily Nintendo. What I mean by that is not the fact that Kirby is not a Nintendo character, but who is developing the games. Many casual Kirby players still believes the series is created by Nintendo, just like Mario or Zelda, whereas instead a whole dedicated team named HAL is responsible for whatever is done with Kirby. Releasing a new Pikmin, Metroid or F-Zero has absolutely nothing to do with the Kirby series, as these inconsistent franchises simply do not have a set development team. Another example would be the Mario and Luigi series. After Alpha Dream, the creators behind the IP were gone. We haven't seen a new game since then, plainly because there's no team anymore. The very same can be said about all the other series, and despite the fact Pikmin is created internally at Nintendo, this doesn't mean they have a dedicated Pikmin team. Every time people sigh when yet another Fire Emblem is announced, it has nothing to do with Nintendo preferencing certain franchises. Look at Metroid Dread, which was only developed quickly after Samus Returns, only for the reason that they found a new group of talented developers fitting for this task. Don't be surprised if we get to see another 2D Metroid game in the following years. Now, what about the question of franchise fatigue? Releasing games without breaks can make them stale, even if they are actually respectably terrific. Take Pokemon for example. The series when it comes to sheer mass production. Just like with Kirby, Pokemon fans received 3 whole titles within a year. On top of that, 3 mainline titles, as the Generation 4 remakes Legends Arceus and Generation 9 cannot be considered on the same level as a dream buffet. Unlike with Kirby, however, people are begging the Pokemon Company to take a step back, with some players even leaving out at least one of these 3 titles in order to not suffer from serious gluttony. Granted, it has something to do with Pokemon bringing out mainline entries nearly every year, whereas Kirby's doing that roughly every 3 years, as established, but still shows a different kind of reception. No Kirby fan feels annoyed by the existence of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe and welcomes the remake with very wide and open arms. The quality is simply there. Forgotten Land, Dream Buffet and Return to Dreamland Deluxe are different enough to cater to individual tastes, and you can basically pick your poison, 3D, 2D or a spin-off or in between. So far we treated the topic only from the view of an outsider primarily, but what about the inside? To be honest, it's extremely wholesome to see how thankful the community welcomes every single game so far. Even with something like Dream Buffet, people were already surprised with yet another game after the Forgotten Land, and even though we didn't receive any DLC for Kirby's big 3D entry, no one seems to be upset about that. It's not only the game, the Music Fest re-release of the animation show, cute picturesque bedtime stories on YouTube, and the overall care for the franchise is just something you don't see often in the gaming landscape. Especially today, where nearly every second AAA production seems to either disappoint, is filled with poor design choices, or appears to be fairly uninspired or plain. It's a pleasure to observe a fairly noticeable franchise like Kirby receiving so much care, passion and pure love for quality. Even back in the day where Star Allies might have not delivered the way people hoped, it cannot be denied that there still was attention to detail put into the game. It was rushed, yes, but you can also see it was a rushed love letter that was written in a hurry. As a matter of fact, when Kirby's at its worst, he's still better than most other franchises, and there's never a moment where you have to be truly scared for the quality of a Kirby entry. Naturally, not everyone is a fan of everything HAL is doing, but collectively speaking, followers are just happy to enjoy Kirby's biggest honeymoon phase so far. So, to come back to the original question, are there too many Kirby games? What a surprise, it depends on how you perceive it personally. On the outside, it might be annoying to see a new Kirby game every second Nintendo Direct, but in the greater picture, it was just an anniversary year with an outstanding performance. And if there's going to be another game in this year, then I will shut my mouth. I will be extremely happy and scream from the inside, but I will shut my mouth. And I would have nothing against it.